My name is Okey Uzoechina. First of all, I'm a problem solver. I like to identify myself as a solutions person. And the kind of issues and the kind of solutions I'm interested in contributing to are solutions about people, solutions that relate to people and the lived reality of people. What do I mean? I'm talking about solutions for the common good of all. Solutions that can contribute to improving communities, to improving nations, and to improving the African continent. And there are different dimensions of solutions. Thinking Africa, for instance, food is an area where, if we are thinking solutions long-term in Africa, we have to think about food security. We have to think about zero hunger. We have to think about making agriculture attractive to the younger generation of Africans. So food is part of the solutions for Africa. Health is part of the solutions. Education is part of the solutions. The environment and living as one with the environment is part of the solution. But there are also several other solutions, including peace and security, including political governance, and institution building, democratization. These are all parts of the solutions. But if at the level of the needs of the person and the needs of the family and the needs of the community, we are not able to provide the solutions at that level, then the solutions at the higher levels of the national scale and the continental scale become elusive for us, because it's only when we are able to provide solutions for the basic and the essential needs and desires of people, that's when we open up our creativity and our thinking to deal with the other solutions. Want to be part of an Africa. It will happen in my lifetime. I want to be part of an Africa where everyone, every African, will feel empowered, will own their power to create the kind of world and the reality they want to see, in big ways and in small ways. And I'm not just talking about people feeling empowered in terms of political empowerment, or you have to be a political office holder or president or governor, but being able to envision a reality, a better future, and being able to create that future, birth that future, is possible for all of us. But it takes activation of the innate element, the innate resourcefulness in every individual to help make that happen. And my dream for Africa, my vision of Africa, is an Africa where every individual can have access to and be able to activate that innate power within each one of us to contribute and to create a better reality for Africa. Let me take you back to 2010 to 2012, that period. So I had graduated from King's College London, where I did my master's degree in conflict, security and development. I was part of the African Leadership Center, CSDG, based at King's, and later in Kenya, in Nairobi, Kenya. And I realized that the founding director of the African Leadership Center, Professor Fumi Olonishaki, was not only well grounded in terms of her knowledge and experience, but she also had a rich network of people on the African continent, different regions of Africa, East, South, West Africa, Central Africa, that, you know, were, to me, the forebears, the giants on whose shoulders I desired to stand on. I'm talking about people like Professor Ebo Hochful. I'm talking about people like Dr. Abdel Fattah Musa. I'm talking about people like Dr. Adedeji Ebo. And these are people I, you know, looked up to so much to learn from their wealth of knowledge and experience. So I got invited to an event in Accra, I remember, between 2010 and 2012. Then I was working with DCAF, Geneva, the Geneva Center for Security Sector Governance. And I had to attend that event. And at that event was a rich network of ASSN experts and other people too. So I started asking questions. What does it take to become part of such a rich network? And, you know, I wanted to learn so much from them and to see how we could all work together, pool our resources and talents together to contribute to a better Africa and a better country for all of us. So I remember in 2012, I got nominated. It was Professor Ebo Hochful that was, you know, ASSN was selecting a cohort of young Africans. He called it the next generation of African justice and security professionals. And I had the honor to be nominated as one of those next generation of African justice and security practitioners. That was my start with ASSN. So from 2012 till now, 10 years actually, this is a decade of my being part of this rich and noble network, the African Security Sector Network. I've been part of this ASSN. There are several dimensions to my involvement with ASSN. In terms of the core ASSN team, the secretariat, my biggest influencers are you and Jane. Absolutely. You see, let's use one of the projects we've been part of, for example, the ECOWAS Security Sector Reform and Governance workshops across countries in West Africa. I wonder again and again what keeps you and Jane going. And she is so, in terms of her organizational skills, in terms of being able to pull things off, I call her the magician. Because I don't know how she does it, but at the end of the day, everything works out well when Jane is at the center. And at the end of the day, you can always count on Elom to bring in that creative spark into a conversation, to bring in that creative spark into a process. So although I may be working on content and designing and, you know, the conversation with resource persons and doing presentations, I always looked at these dimensions of the creativity. What is next in the security dialogue for Africa? What is next for the younger generation of Africans that are coming today? The things that concern us, the younger generation, is no longer things of defense and one country against the other country, or defense equipment and armament procurement. No. The issues of security that concerns young Africans today is jobs. Is having a secure future. Is having a livable livelihood, livable income. Is being able to rest assured that their family is safe and the future of their children is safe. And hoping that 10, 15 years from now, the world that our children will be living in would, even though we know that it will be so radically different from the world we live in today, because 15 years ago was so radically different from today. So 15 years later will be even more so, because the world is becoming increasingly complex, increasingly uncertain, increasingly dynamic. Is being able to rest assured that our children will have the skills, the knowledge, and the resources they need to thrive in that new world 10, 15 years from now. These are some of the issues that concern young Africans. So when we are talking peace and security sector reform, it's not only about guns and boots and training for the armed forces and securities. Is being able to open up the dialogue and, connect the language and the content of what we are doing to the concerns and desires and the needs of young Africans. And when we're talking about Africa, we are not just talking about 20 million or 200. We are talking about 1.3 billion. And 60% of that 1.3 billion is a young population. So this is about us too. Security concerns us. Security is not just about the experts and the government officials and the political decision makers, but it's about all young people in Africa, all boy, all girl, all men, and all women are part of it. Thank you. Number one, I will still bring it home to connecting security dialogue and issues to the lived reality of the next generation of Africans. For me, that is primary because ASSN has set a track record that I don't see any group or organization in Africa of Africans that would rival. When you talk about those that are at the table discussing security, having security dialogue, when you talk about those that are interfacing with government at the highest decision levels, when you talk about those that are connecting to national stakeholders, to parliamentarians, to civil society, to ministries and agencies, but also to defense and security forces. You don't, mention 5 names and 2 or 3 of those names are not part of the ASSN network. We have that already. Now, for me, the next challenge, and I don't want to think about it as a big challenge because it's doable and we must do it. It's essential. The essential thing that we as ASSN must do next is to help in charting and redefining the security dialogue, in help in charting the cost of the emerging areas of security for the next generation. Let me give a few examples. You hardly have in the room when we're discussing peace and security, you hardly have the private sector represented when we're talking security. But the private sector is a core part of our lives in our countries on the African continent. I'm talking about corporations, large corporations, multinational corporations, big, small scale, medium scale, micro scale businesses. The private sector is a key part of insurance for security and should be a key part of investment in security and the future of security. But they are hardly ever in the room. So why don't we expand the pathways and the dialogue by including the private sector and making them a core part of security processes, security decision making, but also investment in security. Do you know why? Because the private sector is concerned about the security climate and environment. Businesses cannot thrive in an environment of insecurity, of conflict, of political instability, of war. There's no business that will thrive except illegal businesses or illegitimate businesses, of course. But legitimate businesses to thrive need a stable and peaceful environment to thrive. So it is in their own best interest also to invest in peace and security, in contributing to the security of their communities, of their nation, and of the continent. And I'm not talking about investment in security as corporate social rights. No. This is not corporate social. This is core. This is mainstream. Not something you do as a help to the people. Because it is, first of all, help to them as insurance and assurance for their business, and in helping to create that stable and enabling environment for their businesses to thrive, but also for all forms of creativity and productivity to thrive. So our destiny is interlinked. So the private sector must be part of the security dialogue that we are having. That's just one example that I want to give. One key achievement of the ASSN, which I am super proud of today, is the contribution that ASSN has made to capacity building, to knowledge building, and to knowledge dissemination across regions in Africa, in West Africa, and is at the continental level with the AU. ASSN supports the African Union Commission, supports the ECOWAS Commission, and is working together with several other partners. For me, capacity is so important for Africa and in Africa if we are to take full ownership of the security sector. We are not there. We're not even close yet. We are missing core capacity at the most basic level where that change and transformation needs to happen. And if we don't drill down that capacity at that level on the ground, we are not going to have all the change that we are dreaming of and talking of. So my joy, my biggest joy, is seeing the really critical role that the ASSN is playing in helping to build capacity at these levels in Africa. Right now, we are doing this at the ECOWAS level. We've been to 6 countries, to Guinea-Bissau, to the Gambia, Senegal, Liberia, Nigeria, and Niger. And we could do more. And we are interacting with and bringing together civil society actors, youth groups, women groups, parliamentarians, ministries and agencies, but also the core security actors, right? Helping in preparing them and in giving them the tools they need to get the job done on a day-to-day basis. Because it's the civil servants and those civil society representatives that are doing the day-to-day work. And if they don't have that tool, the tools they need and the capacity to get the job done, it won't get. An expert can only come and stay for 2 weeks or 5 years maximum, and maybe you get on to the next thing. But it's the people that are living that reality and have the deep desire to make the change and the transformation happen for them and for future generations. They have the highest stake in security sector reform. So ASSN's role in playing that role of building capacity, knowledge building and knowledge dissemination in terms of contributing to the design and the production of tools, the toolkit, for instance, for security sector reform and governance is critical at the national level, at the regional level, at the continental level. For me, that's the joy that I have, that I come in, I see Africans doing this for Africa and bringing up, holding other Africans by the hand and helping to lift up the continent. That's my joy. I want to see an ASSN that changes with the changing time. We are living in dynamic times. Things are changing fast, right? And we have to be flexible and adaptive to the changing times to keep security and security sector reform relevant to society, not only to core security actors, but to everyone in society, and to help make that important connection between security and the lived everyday reality of people, helping them to understand that security is also about food, that security is also about jobs, is also about health, is also about livelihood, is also about a thriving environment where we can all live peacefully, and a thriving environment that promotes the highest level of productivity among the youth and young Africans. I want ASSN to be at the forefront of this change, and that would be a great joy for me if we achieve that in the next 10 years. Thank you.